Let me ask you something before we go any further. What if the only thing standing between you and a completely different life is not talent, not money, not luck, not even time, but simply the decision to start today, right now, before you finish watching this video? Sit with that for a second, because I have met thousands of people over the years, in seminars, in living rooms, in boardrooms, and I can tell you the ones who changed their lives were never the smartest, never the most talented, never the ones with the best starting conditions. They were simply the ones who started. And before I go any further, I want you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now and tell me where in the world you are watching this from. I love seeing that. I want to know how far these words are traveling, because ideas, my friends, don't care about borders. A good idea planted in Lagos grows just as tall as a good idea planted in London. So tell me where you're watching from. And then let's get into it. Because what I'm about to share with you can genuinely change the next 3 months of your life if you let it. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to hear. Most people are waiting. They are waiting for the right time, waiting for more money, waiting for more confidence, waiting for the kids to grow up, waiting for the economy to improve, waiting for permission from somebody, anybody, to finally begin. And here is the tragedy: while they are waiting, life is not waiting for them. The days keep turning into weeks, the weeks keep turning into months, and one day they wake up and 10 years have gone by, and they are asking themselves the same question they asked a decade earlier: when am I going to start? Friends, I want to save you from that fate. I want you to understand deeply in your bones that the time will never feel exactly right. There is no perfect moment sitting out there in the future waiting for you to arrive at it. The perfect moment is a myth invented by people who are afraid to begin. Now, let's talk about why starting matters so much more than people realize. You see, most people think success comes from having it all figured out. First the plan, the strategy, the perfect roadmap, and then once everything is figured out, they will take action. But I want to flip that thinking upside down for you. Because in my experience, and in the experience of everyone I have ever studied who built something meaningful, clarity does not come before action. Clarity comes from action. You don't think your way into a new life. You act your way into a new life. You take the first step, imperfect as it is, and that step reveals the second step. And the second step reveals the third. It's like driving at night. Your headlights only show you 200 feet ahead, but that's enough to get you all the way home, because as you move, more road appears. But if you refuse to move until you can see the entire journey from where you're standing, you will sit in your driveway forever. Let's talk about the 3 months, because I chose that number very deliberately. Not 3 years, not 3 days, 3 months, 90 days. Why? Because 90 days is long enough to build real momentum, real evidence, real transformation, but it's short enough that it doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't feel impossible. 90 days is a season. Think about how much a season changes in nature. Winter into spring, bare trees become full of blossoms. That's not a small shift. That's a complete transformation. And it happens on a timeline of about 90 days. Your life can do the same thing. If you apply the same principle nature applies. Consistent, small, deliberate effort, repeated daily, without needing to see the full bloom before you're willing to plant the seed. Here's what I want you to understand about the first 30 days of any transformation. They will be the hardest, and they will also be the least visible. This is where most people quit, because they expect results to show up fast. And when they don't see dramatic change in the mirror, or the bank account, or the relationship, they conclude the method isn't working, and they abandon ship. But let me tell you something about how change actually operates. It's not linear. It's not immediate, and it's often invisible in the early stages. The same way a bamboo tree spends its first several years growing almost nothing you can see above the ground, while underneath, it is building an enormous root system. Then, once that root system is strong enough, it shoots up 60, 80 feet in a matter of weeks. Your first 30 days are root building days. They may not look like much, but they are laying the foundation for everything that comes after. Don't judge the first 30 days by their appearance. Judge them by your consistency. Now let's talk about the second 30 days. Days 31 through 60. This is where something beautiful starts to happen. Momentum. You see, the hardest part of any new discipline is the beginning. when everything feels forced, when you have to consciously remind yourself, I said I would do this. But somewhere around the 4th or 5th week, if you have stayed consistent, the activity starts to feel less like a burden and more like a part of who you are. This is the compounding effect at work. And I want you to understand this principle deeply because it applies to money, to skill, to relationships, to health, to everything. Small actions, repeated consistently, compound into massive results. But the compounding is always invisible in the short term and undeniable in the long term. In the second 30 days, you are not just building habits, you are building identity. You start to see yourself differently. The person who used to say, I'm trying to get healthy, starts to say, I am someone who trains. The person who used to say, I'm trying to save money, starts to say, I am someone who is disciplined with money. That shift in identity, my friends, is worth more than any single achievement. Because identity is what sustains behavior long after motivation has left the building. And then comes the final 30 days, days 61 through 90. And this is where the harvest begins. Not the full harvest. 3 months is not a lifetime. And I don't want to oversell this to you, but the early fruits, the first real evidence that something has shifted, you'll notice it in small ways at first. Someone will comment that you seem different. You'll catch yourself handling a situation that used to overwhelm you with a calm you didn't have 90 days ago. You'll look at your bank account, or your body, or your relationships, and see tangible proof that consistent effort, sustained over 90 days, produces results that talent alone, without consistency, never will. And here's the secret. Nobody tells you this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of a much bigger story. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can transform your life in 90 days, you now have a repeatable formula. You can run that same process again and again, stacking season after season, until you look up one day and realize the person you are now bears almost no resemblance to the person who started this journey. Let me talk to you now about the excuses, because I know they're there. I know some of you watching this are thinking, Jim, you don't understand my situation. I have kids, I have debt, I have a job that drains me. I don't have the time, the money, the energy that other people have. And friends, I hear you, and I respect the weight of what you're carrying. But let me tell you something I've observed over decades of working with people from every walk of life. Circumstances do not determine destiny, decisions determine destiny. I have seen people with far less than you build extraordinary lives. And I have seen people with far more than you squander every advantage they were handed. The difference was never the starting conditions. The difference was always the decision to start and the discipline to continue once the initial excitement wore off. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a decision, followed by action, sustained by discipline, refined by patience. I want to give you something practical now, because inspiration without application is just entertainment. And I don't want to entertain you today. I want to change your life. So here is what I want you to do. Today, right now, choose one area of your life that needs transformation. Just one. Not 5, not 10, one. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's a skill you've always wanted to develop or a relationship you've been neglecting. Choose one area and then choose one specific, measurable action you will take every single day for the next 90 days related to that area. It doesn't need to be dramatic. In fact, I encourage you to make it almost embarrassingly small at first. Small enough that you cannot talk yourself out of doing it, even on your worst day. If it's health, maybe it's 10 push-ups or a 10-minute walk. If it's finances, maybe it's setting aside a small, consistent amount every single day and tracking every dollar you spend. If it's a skill, maybe it's 20 minutes of practice. No matter how tired you are, the size of the action matters far less than the consistency of the action. Small and consistent will always outperform large and sporadic, because life is not won in dramatic bursts. It's won in the accumulation of ordinary days, handled extraordinarily well. Now, I want to address something else, something people rarely talk about when they discuss transformation, and that is the role of your environment. You are, whether you like it or not, deeply shaped by the 5 people you spend the most time with, the content you consume daily, and the physical spaces you inhabit. If you are trying to build a new life while surrounding yourself with the same influences that kept you stuck in the old one, you are fighting an uphill battle you don't need to fight. Part of your 90-day journey must include an honest audit of your environment. Who do you need to spend more time with? Who do you need to create some distance from, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect for the life you're building? What are you feeding your mind every single day through the people you follow, the shows you watch, the conversations you engage in? Change your environment, even slightly, and you make the entire journey dramatically easier, because willpower is a finite resource, but environment works on you 24 hours a day, whether you're paying attention or not. Let's talk, too, about the inevitable setbacks, because I would be doing you a disservice if I promised you 90 days of smooth, uninterrupted progress. That's not how real transformation works. And if that's what you're expecting, you will quit the first time life throws you a curveball. There will be days you miss your action. There will be weeks where circumstances outside your control knock you off course. This is not failure. This is simply the terrain of growth. And how you respond to these moments will determine far more than the moments themselves. The people who transform their lives are not the people who never stumble. They are the people who, when they stumble, get back up the very next day without drowning themselves in guilt, without using one missed day as an excuse to abandon the entire 90-day commitment. One missed day is a data point. It is not a verdict on your character. Forgive yourself quickly and return to the plan immediately. That's the difference between people who transform their lives and people who talk about transforming their lives forever without ever quite doing it. I also want to speak directly to the doubt that I know is creeping in for some of you right now, that quiet voice saying, "This sounds good, Jim, but I've tried before and it didn't work." Friends, I want you to separate the failure of a past attempt from the possibility of this attempt. Every master was once a disaster. Every person who eventually succeeded at building a new habit, a new business, a new relationship, a new version of themselves, has a graveyard of failed attempts behind them. The only real difference between someone who eventually succeeds and someone who never does is that the successful person treats each failed attempt as information, not identity. They ask, "What can I learn from this?" instead of concluding, "This proves I can't do it." Your past attempts were not proof of your limitations. They were tuition. They were the price of admission to the wisdom you now carry into this attempt. As we come toward the end of what I want to share with you today, I want you to picture something with me. I want you to picture yourself 90 days from today, looking back at this very moment, the moment you're in right now, watching this video. I want you to imagine two possible versions of that future you. In one version, nothing changed. The video was interesting, maybe even inspiring for a few minutes, but life continued exactly as it was. Same habits, same excuses, same waiting for the perfect moment that never arrived. In the other version, you did something different. You took what I shared with you today. You chose one area, you chose one small daily action, and you honored that commitment imperfectly but consistently for 90 days. Which version of that future do you want to be standing in? Because here's the remarkable thing. My friends, you get to decide that right now, in this exact moment, not tomorrow, not Monday, not after the holidays, right now. Let me also say a word about patience. Because in a world of instant everything, instant messages, instant meals, instant entertainment, we have quietly lost our tolerance for anything that takes time to mature. And yet the things most worth having in life, a strong body, a stable financial foundation, a deep skill, a trusted relationship, have never operated on instant timelines, and they never will. 90 days is not instant. 90 days requires you to keep showing up on the days when nobody is watching, when no one is applauding, when the results are still invisible beneath the surface, like that bamboo root system I mentioned earlier. The person who succeeds is simply the person who has made peace with that invisible middle stretch, who has decided in advance that they will not judge day 43 by how it feels, but by whether they showed up. That decision, made once at the beginning, saves you from having to renegotiate with yourself every single day about whether today is worth the effort. I also want you to understand that this 90-day process is not just about the external result, the money saved, the pounds lost, the skill gained. It is, more importantly, about who you become in the process. Jim Rohn always said that the greatest value in life is not what you get, It's who you become as you go after what you want. That's worth repeating. It's not what you get, it's who you become. The habits you build in these 90 days, the discipline you strengthen, the resilience you develop by pushing through the difficult middle stretch, these become permanent assets, transferable to every future goal you will ever pursue. So even if this particular 90-day goal turns out smaller than you hoped, the person you become in the pursuit of it is a gain that stays with you forever, ready to be applied to the next mountain and the one after that. So here is my challenge to you, and I mean this with everything in me. Don't let this be another video you watched and felt good about for 20 minutes before life swallowed the feeling whole. Take one action right now. Before you close this video, write down the one area you're going to focus on for the next 90 days. Write down the one small, consistent action you're going to take, starting today, not tomorrow. And then, before you go, tell me in the comments where you're watching this from, and tell me what your one action is going to be. I want to see it. I want this community, wherever you all are watching from around the world, to hold each other accountable, to encourage one another, because transformation is easier when you're not walking the road alone. Remember, friends, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't need permission, you don't need perfect conditions, and you don't need to have it all figured out. You simply need to start. And if you start today, and you stay consistent for the next 90 days, I promise you, not with hype, but with the confidence of someone who has watched thousands of ordinary people do exactly this, you will not recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror 3 months from now. The question was never whether you have what it takes. The question is only whether you're finally willing to begin. So begin, today, right now, and let's meet back here in 90 days and see just how far you've come.